All my years in college, I never really remember really going out to watch the quarterback of the other team play. In my first game in the NFL, the Dolphins had the ball, third down. So I kind of stood up. I want to watch Dan Marino. And he throws this laser skinny post for 20 yards, first down Dolphins. It was kind of a welcome to the NFL. That's not normal right there. I went and sat back down.
You going to be a football player when you grow up?
Today is the best day of your life. Believe it.
Give me 8 years of daylight. That's all.
Greatest leader I've ever known.
What a ride it's been. You talk about a will to win. A flame burns inside that man, Dan Marino.
There was nothing normal about Dan Marino's right arm, or what it could do with a football. He set standards at his position, brought fans to his sport, and made fans of his contemporaries.
The most prolific and pure passing quarterback that this generation has ever seen. He made passing the ball look easy, and it's not.
Who's your favorite quarterback? It's Dan Marino, and it's always been Dan Marino. I love the competitiveness, his fiery nature on the field, just kind of everything about him.
Loved watching him throw the football. Had special velocity, and it just came out so fast. Never seen anything like it as far as that release. I'm not sure we ever will.
Anybody who's ever played the quarterback position, they hold Dan Marino in the highest regard. He's on Mount Olympus.
I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. All right! Touchdown, Dolphins! Dan Marino has broken another record.
If there's anyone that ever deserved the Super Bowl win, it was him. He'll go down as one of the greatest of all time.
What a joy it has been to watch that man play football.
There has to be a best quarterback to never win a Super Bowl. Is it cool that that's you, or does it suck that that's you?
It's not cool. No, because, you know, in your heart, you're a competitor, and so I can't accept it. When you say it that way, it's hard to accept. You say it, is that cool? The cool part is I played 17 years, I had a great career, I'm in the Hall of Fame, I won a lot of football games, and did a lot of things, but that's the one thing that's not cool, is I actually, you know, don't know what that feeling's like to walk off the field Sunday and be, you know, a Super Bowl champion. Yeah, I guess I'd say no, that's not cool.
You say it's not cool?
Not cool. Yeah, he would say it's not cool. Mm-hmm. We used to tease him and tell him he was the golden boy. Everything he touched, he was really good at. I always looked up to him. I was always, can I go to the party with you? Can I go here with you? Can I? And he would always say, you know what, you can't come tonight, Cindy, but can you check my fro?
He was just a down-to-earth great kid. I mean, he was one of us. He was hoping I got a couple bucks in my pocket, maybe I can get up to Squirrel Hill or Oakland and get a piece of pizza. He was the kind of guy you wanted to play with, you wanted to play for.
Marino was considering playing 2 sports in college.
You had Arizona and you had Florida State, you had Clemson. Pittsburgh did not have a great baseball program. And that was my concern, that we would lose him. But we had an ace in Hull. That was his mom. Danny wasn't going to leave home.
Every quarterback loves a good pocket. Marino chose to stay in his for 4 more years. Surrounded by family, he signed on to play for the hometown Pitt Panthers.
Could walk everywhere from my front door. The church was right across the street. So you could hear the organ playing every morning when they had mass, and I was an altar boy and I was involved with the church a lot. Central was probably like a 1.5 mile walk, and then Pitt was kind of the same. Basically, my whole life before Miami was in that town of Oakland, which is in the city of Pittsburgh. I could stand on my front porch and see the cathedral learning as how close the university was. It was pretty awesome. I could go home and get my mother to wash my clothes, you know, and get good meals.
Danny appreciated all that. It was fun for me, too.
What was his favorite meal?
Well, he loved, of course, my spaghetti and meatballs.
Mom's cooking was nice, but Marino's meal ticket came from his father, Dan Marino Sr.
I asked him, who taught you how to throw the football? He said, my dad. I said, well, what did he tell you? He said, the ball goes up and out.
Mechanically, the coaches say he's just unbelievable.
Ball goes up, out. Up and out. And I said, don't let anybody ever change your throwing motion.
You go back and watch his tape from college, it's amazing. And, you know, he's this big, tall, he has this great presence, and he's separating away from the line of scrimmage, and he's up on his toes, and he's standing tall in that pocket. Oftentimes, the quarterback position is not one that you would say is intimidating. He's not an intimidator. But I think Dan Marino was intimidating to the people who were going against him. When he made that Mike ID and he took charge of it, and just the way he played, the demeanor he played with, the confidence that he had, the confidence that he transferred to his team, he just had this amazing presence. He had a lot to be confident about. Nobody threw it like Dan Marino threw it.
Marino, he's about 6'4" and weighs 200 pounds and has got a slingshot for an arm.
To cap a third straight 11-1 season, Marino would need to pull off a fourth-quarter comeback against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Against Georgia, we're behind. We had the ball on the 34-yard line, and it was fourth down. I called Danny to the sideline, and I said, Danny, we have two choices. Kick a field goal, or we can go for it.
I was on the sideline. I'll never forget. Danny had Gatorade up to his lips, and he pulled it away and said,
we're here to win this damn game.
And when Jackie heard that, he went right up in his face. I was right there. And he said, say that again.
We're here to win this damn game. Quote.
It is fourth down for Pitt. 4th and 4.5. Could be the last play for him. Marino goes deep. Brown, touchdown! John Brown makes a great catch with 35 seconds to play. Tremendous throwing kick.
That was a pretty special one. That was a good one.
From Sugar Bowl drama to draft drama. Next.
Next up, Miami Dolphins.
Dan Marino was a Steel City kid with a blue-collar dad who taught him more than how to throw a football.
He was a great example for a lot of things, but one was working hard, and he said, take pride in what you're doing. He worked for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette as a truck driver there, delivering papers at night. And so during the day, there's a lot of times when he was around for practice. He was always there. He was, yeah. I'm getting a little emotional, so. But, so he passed away, I think it's been 9 years now. Yeah, so I miss him.
Great father, a great friend. There's so many things. He was just everything, He was, and I miss him to this day. Yeah.
One of the things that was very important to my dad, we weren't allowed to go to bed mad at each other. Even if you were fighting or having a disagreement about something, you had to say, I love you, good night. He was just a wonderful human being.
I've had these in storage for a long time. The letters that my dad wrote me, it's been a while since I've looked at them. There was a lot of a positive reinforcement about the game of football and about life. He's like, Dan, I love you. You have the potential to be the best ever. This is just the beginning. There's no easy road to success. You only go around once, and this is it. So always bust your butt mentally and physically.
Pittsburgh's storied history won't include many chapters on Dan Marino's senior season, where he and the team disappointed, leading to questions about Marino and a draft day fall.
You know, I threw more interceptions than I did touchdowns, and that was because a couple games that I, threw a lot of interceptions in games. One was Penn State. I think I threw 5. And, after you throw 3, what's the difference? The questions came up, why did we struggle?
There were rumors about him in Pittsburgh, that he was a party guy, and that's why he dropped.
I actually had a general manager from a team say to me when he came to talk to me before the draft, he said, "You're Dan's roommate." And he said, and I said, "Yeah." And he said, "We want to know if you use drugs too." I said, "You're kidding me, right?" And he said, "No, I'm dead serious." I said, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know where you're getting all these rumors from, and I don't know where you're getting all this information from, but he's my roommate, and I'm telling you that's not the case." That's why he submitted to voluntary drug testing his whole senior year.
People were questioning whether, I was going to be, good enough to be, a good player in the league and all that stuff. Just made me work harder.
The 48th Annual National Football League Selection Meeting is now in session.
I'm going to tell you something. It really doesn't matter where you're drafted.
Quarterback John Elway of Stanford, Todd Blackley, Jim Kelly, Tony Eason, Ken O'Brien.
You can play or you can't. You can play. The lower you drop, the better the team. Whatever you get, you're going to have to work for, because anything worth having is worth working for. You don't want people giving you stuff anyway, because eventually you've got to earn it.
The Dolphins select quarterback Dan Marino of Pittsburgh.
The 27th overall pick immediately made his mark with the Marx Brothers.
My first impression when I met Dan Marino, he was a very cocky guy. Cocky, confident. With that curly hair flowing out the back of his helmet, I was like, wow, look at this dude right here. Man, this guy is cool as hell.
Dad was special. And what makes a guy special is his ability to do things that other quarterbacks can't do. And the thing that Dad could do is he could fit that ball into tight places.
By week 6, Marino was starting, flashing skills rarely seen in a rookie passer.
It took me years. Dan had it year 1. I mean, he came into the league and he had those throws. He came to the NFL as a polished product, and that just doesn't happen.
At 22, Marino was the center of attention and the new center of Miami's offense.
We threw it 15 times a game until you-know-what showed up, the bazooka from Pitt.
In 1984, in just his second season, the Dolphins unleashed Marino.
When you talk about breaking records, he didn't break records, he shattered records.
Most touchdown passes, 48. Most yards gained, 5,084. Most passes completed, 362. Most 300-yard games with 9. Most 400-yard games with 4. Those are all NFL records for young Dan Marino.
Way ahead of anything anybody else was doing at the time.
48 touchdowns in that era, in that time, is still remarkable. And the fact that it lasted for 20 years, really didn't even get sniffed.
Marino's a tough kid. We got to him, and he still threw the ball well. And we got to, believe me, we got to him. I must have missed him, I don't know how many times. When you get in on him quick, he swats your hands away with his hands.
We had people around him all the time. He's a great quarterback. Probably the best quarterback in football right now.
Did you ever touch his lips during a game?
Yeah, I kissed him once.
the all-time NFL record.
We were all chasing Danny because of the numbers he was putting up, the success that he was having throwing the football.
The Steelers, that was his team growing up as a kid. Dan was on fire in that game.
In the highest scoring AFC Championship game ever, young Marino met the moment.
There's going to be guys open. You have to wait just a hair to get it there, and you may take a few pops. I'll take the pop because they're going to be big plays.
He threw for AFC Championship records, 421 yards and 4 touchdowns, doing what he does best, hanging in the pocket.
That's the tough part of the position, is knowing sometimes you're going to get hit right in the mouth and you got to make a throw. At times you're going to have to stand in there and take hits.
I think he's God's gift to the Miami Dolphins. He's unbelievable. The guy, has so much poise.
Well, the thing is, if they're going to blitz and we know what we're doing, we pick it up and we can hit touchdowns, and that's what happened.
Still ahead, Dan Marino's only Super Bowl.
Ooh la la la, we're going to Palo Alto. Ooh la la la, I see you in the Super Bowl. Yeah, we got it, baby.
When my dad was a Little League coach, he would let everybody pick their numbers, and I get the last choice, and it always would be 13. And I was like, well, I might as well just make this my number.
I didn't have a lot of money growing up, but somehow I had 2 jerseys, the white number 13 and the aqua number 13.
You didn't have to be rich to get a ticket to Super Bowl 19. $60 got you into Stanford Stadium, your very own Macintosh seat cushion, and a chance to watch league MVP Dan Marino.
I mean, he was a 23-year-old kid. He was arguably the biggest star in the country then. And so there was a great deal of pressure.
Number 13, Dan Marino.
Some say 13 is an unlucky number. Well, it's certainly not fortunate to face one of the greatest teams of all time in their backyard in your only Super Bowl.
You always got to take advantage of your opportunity when you get it, because you never know what's coming next. The 49ers, they were a damn good football team. I thought for sure I would be back to the Super Bowl and that I would win a Super Bowl. You just got to accept what it is. That's the only feeling as a football player that I've never experienced. What it's like to walk off the field and be a Super Bowl champion. Would I like to know what that felt like? Yeah, hell yeah, I'd love to know what that felt like. But, it didn't happen.
After the game, some company that Danny was doing commercials for sent a car and a bottle of champagne. We got into the back of the car, and Dan popped the cork and he looked at me and he said, "Did we get our asses kicked or what?" And we all started to laugh, and we had a glass of champagne.
Can I buy you one? It's the least you can do.
Diet Pepsi, 100% NutraSweet.
Here you go. Don't drop it.
100% taste.
See you, Dan. Joe, next year, I'm buying.
In 1985, Marino didn't buy around after winning the Super Bowl, but he beat the team that did.
People were talking about them being the greatest team ever, and he just destroyed them.
The undefeated Chicago Bears are in town to meet the Miami Dolphins.
Marino was uniquely qualified to beat the aggressive Bears defense.
He made quick decisions and he had a quick release. If you're blitzing and he gets rid of the ball, it's a big game. And what happens is that frustrates you. We had 3 Hall of Famers on that defense. You sat there and you saw those things and just said, man, that's unreal. We're there, but he's getting the ball out.
Marino gets the pressure, but he gets it to Matt Moore. Hysteria here in the Orange Bowl.
We matched up real well against the Bears. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to play them in the Super Bowl that year.
The only quarterback to ever beat the '85 Bears couldn't beat the '85 Patriots. While he never got back to a Super Bowl, Marino was still a quarterback's quarterback, wowing his peers with his precision passing.
I was a witness to Dan every day for 2 years, in '87 and '88 when I was a backup with the Dolphins, and there were wild throws every single day. If you want to groom a young quarterback, pull out some Dan Marino tape and watch the mechanics. Dan was literally perfect the way he threw the football. People talk about the quick release, but what made Dan special was his vision. He was going to find the hole, see that hole, and make the accurate throw. That's just an intuitive talent that Dan had.
You don't just zero in on it, but you do. You know, it's hard to explain. See where the linebacker is, see what the coverage is with the safety. That's got to be kind of in that big picture. But then when it's time to react and throw it, then it's boom. Sometimes you can't wait to throw it down the field, and you got to understand how much time that is. Knowing when you have time, when you don't.
It's a lot to worry about.
Yeah, it is. That's why it's pretty hard to do.
What was hard was sacking Marino. Just ask the NFL's all-time sack leader, Bruce Smith.
Bruce used to complain about it because he'd get rid of it so quick. He's just that close to getting another sack.
Coming around that corner like a son of a... The ball's gone. I could have had his ass 3 times. Come on now, give me a break.
Up next, Marino goes Hollywood.
So this Christmas, take care of the hands that take care of you. With isotoner gloves.
Way to go, Dan.
Thanks a lot.
I knew Dan was a bad man when you got a guy that can sell isotoner gloves in South Florida.
I'm mic'd up, just so you know. I just want to give you a heads up. Like, so you don't start talking about how great your movie career was, and you got hosed by Hollywood, and Ace Ventura should have been a jumping point for you.
I made Jim Carrey a star. One for me.
I thought you did a hell of a job in Little Nicky. I thought that was your best performance.
Come on, just let me win one Super Bowl.
In exchange for eternal damnation of your soul? You're much too nice a guy for me to want to do that to you, Mr. Marino.
You did it for Namath.
Yeah, but Joe was coming here anyways.
This sucks.
Some say Marino's best acting performance came during an off-Broadway production in 1994.
I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. Touchdown, Dolphins, Mark Ingram.
Jet fans hate that, the fake spike play.
You know what the Jets are thinking? He's going to take the ball and throw it into the ground.
That is something I got to give credit to Bernie Kosar. Bernie is the one that brought that idea. Said he worked on it in Cleveland, but it never came up in a game situation where they actually could use it.
Yes, yes. I know you like that call.
I give Bernie all the credit for that, although I did throw it.
When the game was on the line, he didn't shy away from it. He wanted the ball.
Back to throw, across the middle, caught by Duper. Touchdown, Dolphins.
Man, that guy had the utmost confidence in his ability. And with that kind of ability, you should have that confidence.
Field Clayton is there. He's got it for a touchdown.
We're down on about the 5 or 6 yard line going in, and it's a timeout, and he came over to the sideline. So we're all standing around and saying what we like on the next play. And I said to Dan, Dan, what do you like? He said, throw the
Marino on the snap, fires it wide open. We got a touchdown.
Most of the games are won in the fourth quarter or at the end of games, and that's when you got to play your best.
49 seconds and they trail by 3. The whole season perhaps in balance here. Here is Marino back to throw. He's going deep, got a man down there. He's got a touchdown.
It's one of those things, always took pride in being someone that your teammates can rely on to make big plays at the end of games.
Kansas City leading 16-10. Marino throws. Clayton has it. Touchdown.
They say football is all about what's under that left nipple, the thumper, baby. And he's got one as big as a football.
Marino rallied the Dolphins to victory in the fourth quarter 36 times during his NFL career. 37, if you ask Steve DeBerg.
We were doing the quarterback challenge in Hawaii, and it comes to the final event, and I got all these points, and I'm going to win $55,000, and it's winner take all. And Dan Marino is the last quarterback to go, and he has the last ball to throw.
We flew all the way to Hawaii. I mean, if I'm going to go all that way, I might as well win, right?
Dan Marino needing 67 points to win overall. The only way you can get that
is to hit the bullseye on the deepest throw, the toughest throw on the field. The green flag is up. There's the long ball, and Marino is on target with a bullseye. Marino with 100 points has come from behind.
Only Marino could do that.
All the money that was going to go in his pocket just went over to mine. He fell on the ground and just laying there.
Dan Marino with a bullseye on the biggest throw of the day.
You'd say luck, but this guy can do those kind of things.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
And the story doesn't end there. That night, he said, I'm going to write you a check. Well, the next morning, he gave me a personal check for $17,000. And, and that's the kind of guy he is.
In 1990, Marino focused his ferocity and generosity to help his second oldest son, Michael.
He was about 2 years old, and my mother came for a visit. And she told me that, she thought something was wrong. Because he was really nonverbal.
My wife and I, we went to the University of Miami, and he got diagnosed with autism.
I didn't really know anybody that had a child with autism, and it was a big learning experience.
Dan's son having autism put a face on it. And Dan and Claire embraced it.
And then it was all about, what can we do to not only help Michael and give him every opportunity to be successful in life, which we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. After that, then it was about, okay, how can we help others?
As a result, the Dan Marino Foundation was established in 1992. It has raised both awareness and millions of dollars to help countless families deal with developmental disabilities.
Dan and Claire Marino, together with other parents of children with autism, did an all-out blitz on the state capitol.
He didn't just put his name on it, he worked it. And he and Claire both have, worked extremely hard.
I think of Dan and the work he's done with his foundation as being ahead of its time.
You look at so many guys now that, do charity events and that have foundations. A lot of that started with Dan Marino.
Today, the Foundation's campus in Fort Lauderdale provides career training and placement for individuals after college.
It's great. I've learned a lot here, more than I ever have learned.
The foundation's pretty much, it's evolved with Michael. The programming and the things that we've tried to accomplish with the foundation have grown as he's grown.
As much as I love everything my dad did on the field, and luckily I've been able to watch videos and see the old games, and I'll sit there and watch it with them. For me, what we have here, the Dan Marino Foundation, seeing what it's become, and also just the amount of people that it helps, to me personally, it's bigger.
Well done. Squeeze, man. Good job. Good job.
Coming up.
Marino is down. I hit a bad patch of grass, slipped, come up, and it just popped.
And there could be something critically wrong with Dan Marino.
My dad was always my favorite football player, and growing up, he retired when I was 8 years old. So I was kind of looking for a new current quarterback to follow. Dan Marino was my guy. I liked the way he competed, liked the way he just kind of was in command out there.
Let's get a drive going, man. Let's get a drive going and score some damn points. Let's go. Let's get some movement on him, right? Get some movement.
He was always competing, always fighting.
Let's go, man. Give me some time to throw a 5-yard out.
Don't ever give in. Don't ever accept, hey, that we might not get this first down or might not win this game. You compete to the very end. So that had a big impact on me.
Set hut! Hut!
Diggs. He fires, and it is complete. Randall Hill at the 10. 5. Touchdown, Dolphins.
Good job, good job.
All right, Miami.
Made me look good, huh, Randall?
If you listen to him, he's a great athlete, and that's the first thing he'll tell you.
Hit the lens. Hit the lens.
Hit the lens of what?
He's the toughest guy on the block. That's the second thing he'll tell you. And he's never intimidated by anything.
You know, the one thing as a player, you know, especially at the quarterback position, is you want a guy that you know you can count on, you know, to line up and play each and every week for years and years and years.
During the course of his 11-year NFL career, Dan Marino's been a very sturdy quarterback.
My two favorite players growing up were Cal Ripken and Dan Marino, and they were both Ironmen. They never got hurt. They played every day, and I thought that was something that was really admirable.
Marino started 99 consecutive games at quarterback, but Miami's Ironman often played on legs of tin. 6 career knee surgeries, or oil changes as he liked to call them, helped keep the streak going.
He was going out there on a half of a knee. He would either get it cleaned up in the off season, but he would constantly be getting it drained. Sometimes you could see his knee just be big as a softball and say, oh, come on, man. But then you could always count on him being ready on Sunday.
In 1993, with the expansion of free agency, Miami retooled to make another run at the Super Bowl.
We had such high hopes. You know, our offense was just stacked with amazing players. It was really a team to be reckoned with.
6 weeks into the 93 season, football's seemingly invulnerable quarterback suffered an Achilles tendon injury.
Marino is down.
And Marino is
hurt.
Down on one knee.
And I'm not sure if anybody hit him. I think he twisted out of there.
That year, my Achilles was bothering me a little bit, but I wasn't thinking anything about it. You know, I hit a bad patch of grass, slipped, come up, and it just popped.
Marino is in obvious pain, and there could be something critically wrong with Dan Marino.
We were so optimistic about what could happen for that team, and it was deflating. It was frustrating. And then to see Danny go through what he had to do to get back was even more frustrating.
For the quarterback accustomed to comebacks, Marino's own return was in question.
Got the surgery and then found out that it was a little loose. It wasn't what it, you know, should have been as far as the surgery, because it was a spaghetti tear and it didn't really come back together the way it should. So even to this day, I can't go up on my toe.
They made a shoe. They had a shoe made that had a spring in it, so the spring would make his foot move.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I went through that summer camp and it was tough. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of stuff with my ankle because of the Achilles. And so I actually wasn't sure how I was going to play.
So it's the opener between the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins in Joe Robbie Stadium, where for most of the hour and a half before game time, a steady rain fell on an uncovered field.
Once I got out there and started playing, it's like I wasn't even hurt.
The heart in the throat of Don Shula as Marino dives inside the 35 down to the 32-yard line for the first down and gets a huge ovation from the crowd.
Marino slogging in the mud, back to pass. He throws downfield, has a man open. Mark Ingram has it at the 30. He's to the 20, 10. He is gone.
Danny Marino is back, baby.
So that first game, Danny was true Danny. Throwing the ball the way he can throw it, you know, moving around, even with the Achilles, you know, give himself a little bit more time. And just on fire.
Now throws deep downfield, has a man open. It's caught. Irving Fryer, touchdown.
Oh, yes.
It was one of those games that became a shootout. Next thing you know, Bledsoe's throwing 4 touchdowns and you got to throw 5 to win, and you just play.
4th and 5. Marino throws deep downfield. It is caught by Fryer. Yes! Touchdown Dolphins. Unbelievable.
What a game by Marino. You talk about championship courage. You talk about a will to win. A flame burns inside that man, Dan Marino.
Still to come.
Here comes Jimmy, and Jimmy's more of a run-first guy.
Sometimes we didn't agree on certain things as far as how we're running offense.
We were going to a game or coming back from a game and talking about, fantasies like, oh, I want, a Mercedes 600 or I want a mansion on 4 acres. And Dan leaned over and said, my fantasy would be to pass every down in the game.
Marino's football throwing fantasy can be traced back to his rookie training camp.
He said, what I want to do is I want you to call all your own plays in practice, and then the beginning of the exhibition season, I want you to call your own plays in the games.
It gave him much better insight, made him a much quicker learner of our offensive system.
To me, it's kind of genius, it put a lot more pressure on me to learn quicker.
Marino's learning curve contributed to his early success, which in turn gave the quarterback nearly unfettered freedom within the offense.
Danny would get the play, and he goes, I ain't calling that play. He goes, we're throwing it.
He had the option to change the play, and it got to a point there where we didn't run the ball at all.
Things changed in 1996 when Jimmy Johnson replaced Don Shula as head coach.
Dan and I thought we had a great relationship. Dan was a great player, and he would do whatever we asked him to do as a quarterback.
Part of that ask was restricting Marino's ability to audible at the line of scrimmage.
Once Jimmy came in, it wasn't that we couldn't check. We really had more check with me, which means you had two options. With Shula, we had the whole playbook to be able to get to, and I think that handcuffed Danny a lot.
There was tension there, and if you were around a team a lot, you saw it.
Sometimes we didn't agree on certain things as far as how we're running offense.
Keep going. Let's just keep running that. If we want to run the ball, let's run it.
Some of that was there, yeah, but as far as, just us getting along and wanting to win and do whatever it takes to win, that was never a question.
But for Marino, old habits died hard.
It came down to 4th and 10, and we called a timeout, went over to the sideline, and Jimmy in the huddle said, they're going to blitz. Be ready for the hitch. Dan is going to throw you the hitch. As we said break and we running out to the field, Dan looked at me and said, don't run the hitch, run the go. And so Jimmy says run the hitch, and Dan says run the go. I figured Dan was on the field and Jimmy was on the sideline. I think I better listen to Dan. And if it doesn't work out, I'm probably going to get cut.
1:04 left in the game here at the RCA Dome, and what a game this has been.
We snap the ball, and I run the go.
Here's Marino. Corner blitz. Blitz is coming. Dan lobs one for Gadsden. He's open. He makes the catch at the 15. He's at the 10, down to the 3-yard line.
2 plays later, he throws me a fade, and we win the game 34-31.
Dan looks, throws into the end zone. It is caught. It is a touchdown. All right. Touchdown, Miami.
Yes, sirree. Marino is jubilant. This crowd here in Indianapolis is in absolute shock.
Dan Marino, one hell of a job.
The Marino-Johnson marriage lasted 4 seasons, but worked well enough to make the playoffs 3 years in a row. Nonetheless, the results were the same, as the Dolphins failed to make it out of the second round.
62-7, most decisive loss in Miami Dolphin history.
For a player of that stature to go out in a 62-7 defeat, that was the saddest sight I've ever seen in sports. To see that man, after all he'd meant to the Dolphins, that this would be his exit.
And I just watched him walk off the field because I wanted to take that in, because I just had a sense that that was going to be his last year. And I choked up. I didn't want to see his career ever end. He was such a joy to watch.
After 17 years, I would like to announce my retirement from the Miami Dolphins. And I stand here before you today I can say that I have been blessed with a career greater than I could have ever imagined.
Dan Marino becomes the all-time leader in pass completions in NFL history.
And Dan Marino, with that touchdown, has broken another record. He has the granddaddy of them all now. Most touchdown passes ever.
And I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss everything about it.
It's tough to see one of the greatest, first of all, not play anymore, but two, leave without getting what he ultimately yearned for, which was a world championship.
People always think his legacy is diminished because he didn't win a Super Bowl. We didn't win a Super Bowl because of us, not because of Dan Marino. He was certainly good enough to win a lot of championships. We just didn't put it together well enough to help him win.
In 2005, Marino received pro football's highest honor, enshrinement into the Hall of Fame.
To have my son, stand up there and introduce me, my oldest son, it was really special. Thought I was going to have my dad do it, and actually when I started to even hint about him doing it, he's like, nah, I'll let your son do it.
I'd like to introduce to you my father, my hero, and my friend, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Marino.
Looking back on my career, I've accomplished many things, and I'm honored that so many of my Dolphin teammates are here today. Of course, in the end, every quarterback wants one more thing. He wants one more Sunday in front of his fans with a football in his hand with one last chance to go deep. And I'm going deep, and Clayton, turn around and you go deep right there.
And I thought he was just going to throw me one of those little cupcake passes and stuff just so make sure I caught it. Man, that guy drilled that ball like we were playing on Sunday.
I'll remember this day the rest of my life. Claire, kids, mom, dad, thank you.
Dan Marino's definitely one of the top quarterbacks I ever played. There's no doubt. Just the way he went about the game, his passion for the game. Marino could play with the best.
They had to go back in time, knowing what they know now, that he was never going to win one. And you had a chance to start a team, and Dan Marino was on that list in his prime. You would be a fool not to take Dan Marino to start that team. And if they say different, they're lying.
I want to be known as a guy that loved to do what he did and play hard. Was a winner, was a good teammate, and I was able to do what I loved doing from the time I was a kid and be pretty damn good at it.